I'm the administrative director here at Yosemite Sierra Summer Camp, and we are going to be talking about a great topic, a day in the life as a camper at YSSC. But before we get to our hosts and to our special guest, just a few housekeeping rules. If you have any questions throughout this time, we will do a Q&A portion at the end of our conversation. So you will have some time to throw in the chat and the Q&A portion down below if you have any questions, and we're just going to get this show on the road. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Sarah Coolius, owner and executive director of Yosemite Sierra Summer Camp, and Jessica Peterson, associate director. I realized I needed to say your camp names because we're so close. Sarah is Salsa, and Jessica is Sprinkles, and I'm Popcorn. So that's how you'll get to know us as we get ready for summer. So I'm gonna let them start us off.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us for our last morning on the porch before we're actually meeting on the porch with our staff to talk about the day. So we're excited that you're here and wanting to know just a little bit more about what your kids are going to experience this summer.
Yes, yeah, and like Popcorn said, I'm Sprinkles. This is Salsa. We are so excited for your kids to start calling us our camp names. It always feels like a wonderful time to switch over into that. So we're looking forward to that. So like Popcorn said, we are going to be talking about a day in the life of your camper, kind of the average day of what your camper will experience. And we love to, camp is such a great space to have some surprises and fun and a little mystery. So each day kind of has its own little zest and flavor, but we do have kind of a set rhythm that our kids experience. And so we're going to dive into that a little bit, and then we'll go to a special guest that I'm excited for you guys to meet. But before we do that, we'd love to just start talking about and sharing our screen to show you guys kind of what your camper will experience on a day-to-day basis. So we don't want to give away all the surprises, but we are going to walk through a typical day at YSSC. So Popcorn, give me a thumbs up if our screen is being shared, and then I'll kind of walk us through that schedule.
Almost there. 1 second. There we go.
Perfect. So where we are on our website, just so you know, is our FAQs, our frequently asked questions. And you can always find that at the bottom of our website. It's kind of in that bottom toolbox at the bottom of the page, FAQs. So this is one of our FAQs. What is a typical day at camp? And so we start off the day with a wonderful wake up bell that rouses the kids at 7 a.m. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but we have this beautiful part of our camp. We go by a bell system so that kids aren't being plugged in with technology to remind them or tell them when to move on to the next thing. So a wonderful bell rings through campus at 7 a.m. And their counselor helps, get them up and ready for the day and dressed, teeth brush, all those good things. And then we meet together as a camp down at our flagpole. And this really ushers in a tradition that we have at YSSC. It's called our flag raising time. And it's a wonderful time to gather together. All of camp comes together, all of our campers, and each cabin gets the opportunity to present something to the group, whether it's a skit that they've been working on or a song that they've been learning. Maybe it's a Bible story reenactment or a verse memorization that they want to share. It's an opportunity to really start off the day with some tradition and silliness. And what they don't know is that it also accomplishes all of us making sure that we have all gone up and ready for the day and are present. So it's a little bit of an undercover roll call so that we make sure everyone is accounted for and doing well this morning. Then we transition to breakfast at 8 a.m. And our kitchen staff have been up for a few hours already, preparing delicious food for your kids and with all the with all of the care and joy of preparing a yummy meal for your kids. So we've got breakfast at 8 a.m. And then we switch over to a cabin cleanup time. Now this is a special camp activity, and so this is an opportunity. It sounds like what it is, to have your kiddo help participate in cleaning up the cabin. So this is a really wonderful time for some of that skill building, especially if you have some younger kids. Well, all of the campers, all ages really need
Teenagers too.
Yes, need to help learn this too. And it looks like contributing to cleaning up the cabin. So we've got a fun list of kind of daily chores, if you will, daily responsibilities, like we're going to make our bed and we're going to put our clothes away and organize our shoes in a clean and orderly way. And because it's camp, we have to have a little fun with it too. And so once kids have fully cleaned the cabin, then they get to participate in kind of dressing it up and putting maybe a theme to it, maybe hang a few decorations that are fun, and get the chance to compete for the best theme of the day. So but at the core of it, our kids are learning how to have those muscles of responsibility and really participating in contributing to a clean place. Next, they transition to our discovery time. It's our Bible study time. That's what we call our Bible studies. If you ever hear us refer to discovery, that is a reference to our small group Bible study time. Those are led by our counselors, and all of our camp is going through the same curriculum. And so that's a cabin specific time. It's that small group time to really meet as a cabin and dive into the series. And so we're excited for that. We love that. And then the next part of the day goes into our cabin activity. And again, that's that first activity period of the day, and they are in their cabin. And so whether they get assigned banana boats or they get assigned crafts or archery or whatnot, they're journeying over to that activity with their cabin and participating in that. And then we have lunch, and followed by a very important time of the day. It's our cabin kickback, or it's our rest period. And so all of our campers, no matter what age, from the 8-year-olds to the 16-year-olds, experience what we call kickback time, which is, essentially it's a nap time, or it's a rest period. And so kids are encouraged to either take a nap if they're, tired enough to do that. Otherwise, if they're not sleepy, they can quietly read a book on their bed, or if some kids have brought, a Sudoku packet or something like that, they can work on something on their bed. But the point is to really take a moment to rest and decompress before, revving up for the second half of the day. So following that rest period, we jump back into a afternoon activity, and then followed by free time. And we have a set amount of time. That's really an important time for kids to get the opportunity to have some unstructured playtime. And we're quite intentional about when that time comes. At the beginning, when they first arrive, unstructured time can be a little scary if they're not sure, who their friends are yet, or they're not sure, the schedule. That can be a time where homesickness comes up. And so at the beginning of the session, you'll notice we have more structure. Hey, come play Gaga ball. Hey, come do this. And then towards the end, as they really get their feet underneath them, they get the opportunity to really pick, what that looks like, and enjoy that free time.
And can I add that unstructured play does not mean unsupervised play?
Yes. Yeah.
So the grownups are all still around. Kids just get a little more choice in that time, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, learn the muscles of what it looks like to be able to make a decision and pick something to do, be creative. So that's great. Yes. Thanks for adding that. So, and then we transition really through dinner into our evening portion of our day. And so every evening looks just a little different. That's probably where we get the most variation, because each night presents the opportunity to do a different sort of game or experience. But most of it looks like some sort of campfire or evening meeting around 7 p.m. after dinner time. And for the first week, we have a wonderful guest speaker who comes and gets the opportunity to preach and really invest in our kids. So we have a speaker that comes and we'll often do some sort of campfire lesson in that. And then following that, we have an all group, all camp game. And whether that's a night game or it's maybe a variety show, or maybe it's an opportunity for kids to present skits that they have, that kind of changes up each night, but it's some sort of whimsical, all camp game. And so really what you'll see is we have a good portion of the day that's really structured in the cabin. And that's, kids are getting to know each other and develop relationships with both their cabin mates and their counselor. And the evening time tends to be a little bit more all camp oriented, and really get to make friendships with folks in other cabins or in large group settings. So following that, we have a cabin recap time where counselors get to lead their cabin and reflecting on the day, things that they've learned or experienced, high points, low points, lessons, all of those good things, and get to really, settle in and start to slow down before heading to bed. And then lastly, lights out at 9:30, and that is ushered in with a wonderful camp tradition that we have called the Goodnight Song. Our staff come through all of the different living spaces and sing a goodnight lullaby to all of our campers to really signal it's time to go to bed. And then our counselors get to tuck in, metaphorically, all of our campers. They get to speak kind of a affirming word, an encouraging word over them. They get to pray over them and help them go to sleep.
Yes.
That's the day. That's a day in the life. There's a lot more in all of that, but that's a small glimpse into what kind of a typical day looks like. And we've got offsite days where that schedule will change up a little bit, but this is kind of the bread and butter day. And then we have variations along.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I hope that gives you a great picture. And this summer, when you're hopping online and looking at photos of the day, you'll notice these various times. You'll see the flag raising photos and the cabin time activity photos, and then you'll see the whole family together playing at night in the evening photos. So now you'll know what time, what's been going on. We strive, we are very intentional to have a well-paced program. That's a pretty full day that Sprinkles just shared. But you notice that there's downtime, and that's on purpose. It's interesting, in the last 15 years, especially, campers come to camp and they're tired already. They've had a very full school year with lots of extracurricular activities, or their summer's been packed with teams and tutoring and summer school. And what we find is they really do enjoy having some exhale time to catch their breath, time to get creative and imaginative. We want them to have the time to build some relationships, some friendships, sometimes to unpack and debrief experiences with their counselor and their cabin group, help name the learning, help maybe bounce back from a mistake and try again. Just sort of that collecting yourself time and being really present. The research shows that one of the main gifts of camp is helping children be in the moment and not be so anxious and focused about what's coming down the road and all the things they need to accomplish, but really finding peace in the moment. And that's why we are paced the way we are. I also really appreciate that downtime does not come with a screen, because being a no-tech camp, it comes with thoughtfulness. It might come with crafts. It comes with conversation. And that's been a really, really sweet thing for our campers. Now, that's not to say that our campers don't ever get tired. They do. And so sometimes napping is the cabin activity in the afternoon for our younger cabin groups. We want to keep them well rested enough to stay healthy. Kids who are rested enough learn better and get along better. And so those are things we're really watching out for. All those health things are important to us. And that's why we invited our special guest to join us this morning, because interacting with our health center at camp, which we call Club Med, is part of many campers' daily flow of life. And so we've got one of our guest nurses, Catherine Wade, camp name Snickers, to join us for a little bit of interview time with Sprinkles and talk about the different ways Club Med can support kids throughout the day. So Popcorn, can you pop Snickers up with us here, and we'll turn it over to you guys.
Yes, I will ever so shortly. As you know, Snickers is currently a nurse and working. She had let me know that she had to step away for a second. I believe she'll be back soon. But I think, you know, we shared so much about Club Med already. Yeah, so we're kind of just at a standstill right now, waiting for Nurse Snickers because she is being Nurse Snickers.
She's doing her job. Well, I love that. She's a very responsible person. Let me tell you a little more about Snickers then. Snickers was a camper along with her siblings for years. In college, she came back and was a summer staffer. Now she's married. She's got 3 kids of her own. She's an RN and lives up actually in Wyoming, but she never hesitates to come and be a guest nurse for us for at least one session during the summer. Our health center, Club Med, is set up with 3 staff members. So we've got a Club Med manager and a Club Med assistant who are with us the whole summer, really know the schedule and the protocols and all those good things at camp, all of our accreditation standards. And then our guest nurses or doctor will come for a session specifically, and they bring that extra experience, that seasoned wisdom, so that there is a team of 3 in Club Med each session. So welcome, Snickers. Thank you for taking time today. I'm gonna turn it over to you and Sprinkles to ask a few questions about Club Med.
Great. Oh, Snickers, it's good to see you. I'm excited that you're here. Thank you for taking a pause in the midst of an actual shift that you are working to be here with us and our families. So yeah, I just have a couple of questions for you and would love for you to share kind of your experience and speak to some of these things at camp. So I'll start off with a pretty basic question that we experience a lot. So tell us a little bit, Snickers, about you know, how and when campers receive either vitamins or medications that they have at camp.
So we typically try to time it with meals. So right before the meal. So after flag raising, when the kids are sitting at breakfast, we typically come around with trays with their medications already set out. And we can give them then. We can also do at lunchtime. We'll go bring the kids medications who have the kids campers who have need for medication at lunch, and my daughter's actually one of them. So I usually just go over to her and discreetly give her medication. She takes it no problem. And then dinner time is another time we will have meds there at the meals. And then before bedtime is also the other main medication time. If there's needs at other times, we can certainly accommodate that. We can also make it more discreet if the camper wants to come up to Club Med just on their way to a meal, we can do that. Or they can come find us on the porch in the corner there. They can come out and find us there if that's easier for them too. We try to make it tailor it towards the campers and what feels best for them.
That's awesome. Thank you for speaking on that. You know, one thing I'll add, because Snickers is humble and our team is humble, but they do so much to support our campers when it comes to medications or vitamins that they need to take. And so they work very hard. And one of the ways in which that they really, you know, get a feel for what your camper needs in their medication is they call all of the parents beforehand that list either a medication or a health concern on their form that they submit prior. So you guys will all receive you have already received the health history form on your parent portal. And so when you fill that out and you list a medication that they take, our nurses are already calling before the session, before your kiddo even arrives, to be able to clarify, what is that and when did they take it, and how does your camper even feel about it, and all those good things to be prepared well for you. And I will always take the opportunity to plug while we're talking about medication. Always, if your camper needs to have medications while they're up at camp, make sure that you are bringing that medication in its original bottle. If you take it out, sometimes parents will think it will be helpful to put it pre-dosed in maybe a pill pocket or something like that, and we have to have it in the original bottle. So I'm gonna plug for our nurses, because I know that's a big one, and make sure if your camper needs to bring medication, it's in its original bottle. Okay, back to interviewing. Snickers, tell me a little bit about some of the first aid support that you guys offer, maybe when it comes to scrapes or bumps or even just mosquito bites. Tell us a little bit about some of that support that you guys offer.
So campers can come to us at any time. Usually, we want them to notify their counselor or staff member, whoever they're with, that they're going, so they can have a partner to come with them. We take care of anything and everything, from bug bites to broken elbows to unfortunately stomach flu bug type kids. Whatever the camper needs, we'll check them out first and see, make sure they don't have a fever, check their vital signs, things like that, and then see what's really going on. For bug bites, we have topical stuff we can put on them, and then also I want to add about medications, the form that PRN medications as needed. So if you fill out a form for us that says that your child is okay getting Tylenol and ibuprofen and Benadryl and those kind of medications, we can use our judgment. If it's an allergic reaction, we can give them the Benadryl, and we'll call you and let you know after the fact. But so that's something important we want you to fill out, just so we know ahead of time that they can have those PRN over-the-counter medications. And then really we just will observe and make sure the kiddo is doing okay before we send them back to their activity. If it's something that needs more medical attention, we have 2 staff members that can take them to our local urgent care or to the hospital if needed. We always send 2 staff members with the camper. If we need a camper to sleep in Club Med for whatever reason, if it's a stomach issue or maybe they just are feeling a little run down, we accommodate that as well, again with 2 staff members. I would say one of a major health that we're always aware of is hydration and dehydration. So we're constantly reminding staff to give those campers plenty of fluids at meal times and make sure they have water bottles, because I would say probably that's one of the highest Club Med visits. And so we'll have them sit in a cool room for a while, give them some ice packs, give them some hydration, and then make sure they're doing okay before we send them back to their activity. But I would say those are the main, probably the big issues, cuts and scrapes too. And we're always watching those to make sure we have campers come back to make sure it's not getting infected or anything like that. If your camper comes with ear pain, we'll check their ears and kind of determine if we need to take them to urgent care to get that looked at for potential antibiotics. So we do a lot of triaging and TLC, and then making sure the campers are feeling comfortable and ready to go back to their cabin. And it's always our goal to get them back with their cabin kind of as quickly as possible, because we don't want them missing out on too much fun.
And it's hard to remember to drink water when you're just having so much fun.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of ways that we try to remind campers to be getting plenty of water. Snickers, I'm so glad you touched on some of our local medical support when it comes to doctors and ERs and things like that. Can you talk about kind of our 2 main places that we go and the distance, just so that parents kind of have an idea?
Oh, sure. So Oakhurst would be the closest urgent care that we would take our campers to, and that's about a 15-minute drive. If it's a more serious injury, off hours, in the evenings when urgent cares are closed, we'll take them down to Fresno usually, and that's about a 45-minute drive. If it's a real emergency, we would call 911 and have paramedics and ambulance come meet us. But that's about where, like, distance wise, that's about how far they are to us from us.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for commenting on some of the more, if there were to be a bigger injury, that's kind of what that would look like. Maybe dialing back to some of the more run-of-the-mill experiences that we have at camp. You actually commented on this a little bit, some of the campers that might need just a little extra TLC. Can you comment a little bit more about some of those cases that you guys find and how you kind of work with providing that?
Sure. We love getting camper visits. So it's hard for us sometimes because we don't want to send them back to their cabins. We want to hang out and get to know them. But we also know how important it is for them to be with their cabins and not be missing out too much. So sometimes they just need to come and get like a glass of water, or we call it hydration powder, our electrolyte powder. And they'll kind of sit with us for a couple minutes, and we can always chat with them one-on-one. If it's something maybe more emotional that's going on, and kind of get maybe a little bit more information from them before we either, encourage them to go back to their cabin, or maybe have their counselor come check in with us. I think that's one of the probably the coolest things I've seen over the years of being in Club Med is how much the staff want to have relationships with these campers, and they just get to know them so well. Like, oh, you're here for this, and oh, you're here for that. Oh, what are you doing here? You're not usually here. And so we know those kids who need just an extra, maybe a little bit of time separated from their cabin. Maybe they just need a little break. So I would say that that's probably one of the best parts about Club Med, is that how in tune they are with the campers and just what their needs are in that moment. And if we feel like they need to, it's something that they maybe don't need as much full attention for, we really try to encourage them to get back to their cabins, and we'll walk down there with them. We'll hang out with them for a little bit to make sure they're feeling comfortable and back engaged with their friends and their peers.
Yeah,
So our goal is not to separate them. We don't want them to, as much as we love having the campers there and visiting us, we want them to be with their cabins.
Yeah, no, and we have some of the most warm and welcoming nurses, and so Club Med can often feel like a really safe and comforting space. And so our nurses both utilize that well, and getting to minister to these kids and help them feel whether it's homesickness or just even a nervousness about trying something new. And our nurses also help push them back into a space where they can show up well and challenge themselves. So we love our nurses. They're so great. Anything else that you would add?
About just that nurturing TLC part.
Just any other questions you have?
Yeah, there are times that a kiddo just needs a Band-Aid, or maybe something for allergies, or we're following up on maybe an ear infection they came to camp with, and they're wrapping up their antibiotics. We're just checking to make sure it's taken care of, and so our nurses will attend to them, and then send them back out, as we mentioned. And there really isn't a need to call a parent about that Band-Aid, right? But there are times that we do want to be in touch with parents, for kids who come to camp with special needs, as Sprinkles had mentioned before. A child who might come with diabetes, we're going to have a conversation with a parent before they come to say, how do you manage this? And what about this? What should we be looking for? So we don't typically call on little things, but we call on the bigger things. And Snickers, can you name some of the other times a parent would expect to hear from Club Med?
If a camper needs to stay the night in Club Med, we will always let you know. If we need to take them to an urgent care, we'll always let you know. If we have any questions about if a camper comes to us and has says one thing and the medical history form maybe says something different, we will always call parents to clarify. And sometimes on those medical forms, parents do write little notes to us, like if you need to give this medication, will you please let us know? So we're always happy. I guess I always err on the side of calling the parent and just letting them know because I like them to be in the conversation. So I usually will either text or give them a call, just so that parents feel like that they're part of the conversation and part of the communication. We never want parents to feel like we're doing something behind their back or without their support. So I'm more one who will err on the side of that communication. But that being said, we'll typically not let the camper have communication with the parent at that time because sometimes it can be a homesickness issue potentially, and we don't want to increase that homesickness by letting a kiddo talk to their parent if it's really not super necessary. So we're cognizant of that as well. But basically, anytime I have a question, I will get a hold of that parent to make sure that I have the right information.
Great. Great. Yeah. So families, please know that if something's significant, we're going to be in touch with you. And if you have questions like, oh, sometimes, my child gets anxious about this or that, you are always welcome to call the office. You'll get popcorn probably first off and share your concern. And then our Club Med staff can call you back. That partnership and that communication is really important to us.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Snickers, that you'd like to let parents know as we're anticipating the summer?
Not really. I'm excited. My kids are excited. We can't wait to get there.
Yeah. You know what I will mention, just because we got a CDC notice yesterday, there is anticipation of a couple various viral respiratory illnesses that might come up this summer. We've been wrestling with kind of leftovers of COVID. There's been RSV, there's been some other things. And so at camp, we still are going to really work on those health hygiene protocols, washing our hands a lot. We're going to we do a lot of activities outdoors. Our dances are outdoors. While we do some indoor things, being outdoors in that fresh air is really helpful. We cough and sneeze in our elbow, and we do a little practice of that the first day of camp. And so we're going to continue to find ways to keep our kids as healthy, especially as some of these respiratory things might be cruising through. But again, if anything comes up, parents, we're going to call you. So I think that's about it. Snickers, we need to let you go back to work. We're so grateful for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, and we'll see you soon at Bass Lake.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye.
Well, great. Well, I think that really leads us to asking Popcorn, what questions do our families have? What are some of the questions that have come up?
Just a couple, just to take us to the end. This was a medical question, but I know you two can answer this. This parent asked, my son has an EpiPen for bees. Can he carry that EpiPen with him?
Great question. Thank you for sharing that. Typically, families will send 2 EpiPens. That's pretty common. Our policy is that campers won't be carrying it on their person because there's a tendency to lose or misplace them. But the counselor of any camper who needs to have, whether it's an EpiPen or any other, whether it's a medicine or inhaler, needs to have them with them, will have a fanny pack with them. And so that counselor is always with that camper. And that need will be met that way. So the adult will be carrying whatever medical support they need. And then we'll have that extra EpiPen right at Club Med in case one gets wet or one, ends up being expired or something like that. So if there's any issues around that, again, we'll call a parent, but the adult will be carrying in a fanny pack.
Looking groovy.
Yeah, looking really groovy. They're in again, so it's good.
Awesome. Just kind of transitioning to more of some programmative questions. So this parent had mentioned that their camper went last year to YSSC and had a great counselor, great experience, and they're hopeful that this counselor will be back. Are they able to request a counselor for their camper?
Good question.
That's a great question. Well, first of all, we are so glad that they had a wonderful experience and they made such an impactful, relationship with that counselor. That is always our goal, and so that's music to our ears. So that's a great question. We have had that happen over the years where a parent has inquired about the ability to request. And here's what we would typically say. We love hearing, if there's a preference or a desire. That does not always mean that we will grant that. There are times where, based on the relationship or the experience, it has been sweet where a camper has gotten a counselor, 2 years in a row, or maybe took a year off and got that counselor again. And that was a really meaningful thing. But the way that we build our cabin groups, is a intentional process where we're really matching based off of personality and what that little cabin group might need. So sometimes that might be that counselor, and then other times it might be a new counselor and the opportunity to experience a new counselor and a new relationship and grow in that. So we don't have like a set policy on if that happens or not. You're welcome to let us know that your camper really loved that counselor, and we would ask that you trust the process in which we build cabin groups, and whether that person gets a counselor again.
Yeah. So we do always prioritize the needs of the whole group. So the temperament and the need of the whole cabin, we're going to give the counselor that's the best fit. So yes, just if you could trust the process, that'd be great.
Yep.
Awesome. Just one for you too. This family had mentioned that they don't typically go to church, and they know that we are a Christian adventure camp, but they would love to know two things. How quote unquote churchy are some of our seminars or are just our curriculum? And does a camper need to bring a Bible? And if so, what kind of Bible?
Great question. Do you want to do
Great
that?
question.
Do you want me to do that?
Sure, we can bounce back
Okay.
and forth.
I love that word churchy.
Yes.
Because it does really connotate, that feeling of sitting very formally in a space. And that can be intimidating and it can be boring sometimes for kids who that is not a familiar experience for them. One of my favorite things about summer camp is that we get to design learning and exploration discovery experiences that are really age appropriate and really interactive. So for example, our morning cabin Bible studies are typically unpacking stories from the Bible and saying, so how does this relate to me? And what can I learn from this? And what does Jesus say about this? Why does that matter to me? And it's really participatory and engaging. And sometimes an 8-year-old boy's cabin is going to do that while hiking around camp because I got to move. And sometimes a 16-year-old girl's cabin is maybe journaling throughout that because I learned by writing words down. And so those are really crafted age appropriately. Our guest speakers are really engaging, fun, amazing people. And again, we learn through stories of others. And so unpacking Bible stories, sharing relevant truths. It's lighthearted. It's the major points of the gospel. We don't spend time getting really into different denominations and traditions. That's for families to do. We really are covering just the basics of the gospel and the love of Jesus and God's desire to have a relationship with us. And our seminar time, there are some mornings where we'll have topics shared by our staff. Maybe it's on how to be a better sibling. Maybe it's on how to read and study the Bible when I get home. Maybe it's about, I'm an anxious person. How does God support my anxiety? And campers can choose the different topics they want to go to. So again, our kids are learning in a relevant and age appropriate way. it does not feel very churchy, if you ask me.
Yes, yeah. I think a good point for that is recognizing, yes, we have lots of, we are a Christian camp. It's one of our, 4 main mantras that we talk about. And so it is going to be, woven in throughout the day that will be present. But we also have lots of campers who have, don't know the gospel, do not go to church, don't consider themselves to be Christian, or we have other campers that are of different faiths that come. And so, without knowing the exact context of the question, if you are coming from a lens or a background of wondering, is my camper going to be uncomfortable if they don't go to church? No, they will fit in just fine. And the way that we really coach our staff and guest speakers is to be able to speak to, all different campers that have experiences in different, contexts. And so they, using words that make sense to everyone and not overly churchy words or things like that. So hopefully that answered that part of the question. I'll make a note on the Bible. We would love if your camper does have a Bible, please have them bring it. We do have that Bible study time, and so for them to be able to have a Bible and participate in that is meaningful. So we ask if they have a Bible, bring the one that they have. If they don't have a Bible and you are looking to send them with a Bible, or you're wondering if there's a specific type of translation, we would recommend either the NLT, the New Living Translation. That's a translation that's really accessible to kids. It uses language that can help them understand, or the NIV, the New International Version. And so either one of those translations is great. And we also have Bibles at the camp. If your camper doesn't come with a Bible or forgets their Bible, we can always loan them a Bible. Or if they want a Bible, we can look into giving them a Bible as well. So that kind of answers that. You don't need to go out and buy a new type of Bible. If they have a Bible, send them with what they have. But if you're looking for a recommendation, that NLT or NIV is a great place to start.
And you can just get those on Amazon. Yep. And I actually prefer paperbacks for my kids because I want them to write in them and I want them to get used, and I want them to it's something to interact with, not just something to look at. Yeah.
Awesome. So I anticipated we'd have more questions, and we do actually have some more questions that were submitted. But just to let you two know, we are nearing up to the hour, so we're going to try and go through these questions quickly. I do want to note, because another parent asked about the Bible, we can put a link in the chat. I'll go ahead and just throw in a classic Amazon link to an NLT Bible. So I will get that done. We have 2 more great questions. One of them is, how does camp protect campers against possible abuse?
Oh, thank you for asking that. That's a really, really important question. Where do we start?
To answer quickly.
Yeah. So, first of all, as an accredited camp by the American Camp Association, we have lots of standards for training staff, screening staff, a lot of, just doing a background check is not sufficient. But we do live scan fingerprinting and all those good things. But mostly when we learn about staff is doing thorough references, really finding out about their backgrounds, and then training them to know what to look for. We find that if we have lots of hoops for them to jump through before they arrive, it will dissuade someone who might be wanting to sneak through our defenses to be in that space. So we do online child abuse prevention training. We do in-person abuse prevention training. And then we have lots of just policies and procedures set up so that kids are more safe. For example, we use the rule of 3. We never want a staff member to be in a private space, if possible, with 1 kiddo. So as Nurse Snickers mentioned, if we're taking a camper to the doctor, they're going to be with 2 adults. In addition, camper on camper abuse, whether it's verbal, physical, sexual, is something to really watch for. And so supervision, eyes everywhere is really important. It's one of the reasons we have a big staff, so that we can keep eyes everywhere. So we will continue to make that a really, really high standard for us. And if you have additional questions about that, please don't hesitate to email or call the office, and we can even talk in more specifics about that.
Yeah. So the short and simple, response is how long before your camper ever arrives at camp are we, mitigating and making sure that we have a really safe environment. And then of course, all throughout the sessions as well.
Awesome. Okay, our last question of the day. I think we've all thought about this one way or the other, but how has all of the precipitation and snow impacted the campgrounds and surrounding area?
We laugh.
Fabulous question.
Yeah, that's great. I'll jump in and you can share. Well, one, it's been a joy to learn and brainstorm. All right, what do we do with all of this weather? Certainly our facilities experienced, our weather throughout the year, and our operations director and his team of folks up there have been working hard to repair and recover different impacts from the snow. And so even just last weekend, we had a crew of alumni staff members who love camp and love the ministry and come up and start carving out different trails again and really cleaning up the area. So we feel supported in lots of different ways. So throughout the year, we've been, mitigating that. But I think the thing that I'm most excited about is some of our programming. And really, at camp, the snow will be melted. We're not high enough in elevation where we're experiencing, snow at camp. At this point in the year. So it really is in the higher, the backcountry, the higher elevation where some of our campers would be doing backpacking trips. And so we have been really excited about some of the programmatic shifts that we've been making to have an incredible experience for your kids. So we sent out an email, I don't know, now maybe a month ago or so, talking about a session 1 camp out experience. And it's been a delight to brainstorm the programming. It is going to be an epic adventure. And so that's just one way. Our campers will be going to an offsite location that we own. And so we'll be getting to do this incredible camp out experience where they get to learn all of the same skills that they got to learn on a backpacking trip, but instead they're going to be camping out at this incredible land that we have. And so we'll have an awesome camp out experience for them there.
Because the snow is still there, and
Yes.
getting to our backpack sites isn't possible, at least at the beginning of the summer. And so we're anticipating, depending how quickly it melts, we won't be able to get in the high country like we have in some summers, at least for, a good chunk of the summer. If your camper has been at camp before, they will notice the creek bed has been changed. So much water has been coming down that it changed its course. And so they'll notice different bridges and walkways, and we've had to kind of reshape that. Facility damage really from the snow, which was extraordinary and amazing and awesome and wild, mostly impacted some staff housing issues. And so we're working on some staff housing units. However, the campers probably won't notice much of an impact with, dining hall, dormitories, all those kinds of things. Those are pretty intact. The lake will be very full this summer. We're thrilled about that. And for those kids who get to go into Yosemite Valley for hiking and such, the falls will be epic. So it'll be really good to have a wet summer rather than a dry summer.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, those were our questions. So thank you for answering. Sarah, do you want to end our call today?
Well, sure. Thank you for joining us today. And those of you who joined us each month, getting ready for the summer, we appreciate that. We hope you feel like you have a good handle on what YSSC is all about. building relationships with parents is super important to us. It's one of our core values. And so we appreciate that. In the fall, we're going to be starting these up again. They'll have different subjects and topics, but we've enjoyed getting to meet up with parents. Please remember, all of our mornings on the porch are recorded. And so if you have friends who are interested in camp or who are already have their children registered but haven't gotten to listen to these, they can go back and listen to those as well. And remember, when you have questions about anything at camp, call us or email us. We want to answer those, and we want to partner with you. So summer's coming. It's going to be here in no time at all. We wish you safe and happy and fun and fulfilling summers as well. And we'll do our best to create learning experiences for your kids that will stick with them for a long, long time. All right. Well, thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for joining. See you this
So
summer.
long.